What's the main difference between a typical side button only switch flashlight and a rear tail cap button only switch flashlight? There's some differences you'll come into and some preferences. So we'll start with the thrunite. This is a side button only switch flashlight. One of the pros to having this is usually you'll get a magnetic rear end to this thing. So let me just give you an example. Take a knife out real quick. You'll see this connects very strongly, pretty strongly, you know. It does do a pretty good job at like a 90-degree angle. I've never had any real issues with it falling off. You know, if you're working under your car and you connect it to something, it will pretty much stay there, it won't fall off. It's not a very heavy light, which helps with that. But yeah, the magnetic is fairly strong in this guy. Sometimes you'll get lights with the magnetic backing that aren't strong and they won't even stay on a 90-degree angle. But anyway, nonetheless, this light has 4 main modes for the main lighting, plus a strobe. So there's 5 total modes. The lowest is moonlight, and the only way to access that is to press and hold when it's off. So when it's off, press and hold, you'll access moonlight. It's very low lumens. That's what I like. One of the cool feature on these side button only switch flashlights, that moonlight mode, it allows you to be very discreet. And if you're in a house with all the lights off, such as I am when my kids are asleep and I'm making sure everything's locked up, this is one of the modes I use. It's a very, very low lumen, 0.5, doesn't draw any attention, doesn't reflect much off of surfaces and halls and stuff. But yeah, you can actually, on this light, you can step up from moonlight. Some side button only switch flashlights, when it's on moonlight, you can't go up to that low, medium, or high, etc. Sometimes you have to turn it off to go to those. But this one you can. When it's on moonlight, press and hold, it'll go to low. Press and hold again, it'll go to medium, and then if you press and hold, it'll just go to low, medium, it'll skip moonlight. And then to access turbo, you double click. And turbo will go on when it's off or when it's on, with a double click every time. That's the only way to access the turbo. So for olight i5T, another AA light, like I said, very similar size. It is ever so slightly longer, about maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch up to that rear section of the cap, but the actual button sticks out, so yeah, it's probably an 1/8 to a 1/4 of an inch longer. So just an estimate. Very similar width. They sit in the pocket very similarly. But yeah, with the olight, you only get 2 options with this rear tail button. You get low and high. First click will always go to low. And if you turn it off and back on again pretty quickly, it'll go to that high. And those are the only 2 options you get for that light. And there's only so much technology you can fit, you know, in some of these lights. The lights that are larger should have more options typically. If you're getting a rear tail button only flashlight, usually you get like low, medium, high, or low, high strobe, etc. But this is a pretty small light. You can only fit so much computer electronics in there. It's just low and high. This is a light that I actually prefer to hand somebody who's not really familiar with lights. And also in an emergency situation, I would prefer this light. I find no issue with finding this button in the dark or in a hasty situation, etc. Whereas this button kind of disappears, which is a good thing. It's a good EDC light. I would not say, I still use this, you know, when I'm working on cars and stuff like that, but I would not trust this as much in an emergency situation. Whereas this light, either in an emergency situation or handing to somebody, I would prefer this one. So let me know what you guys think. Those are just my thoughts on these 2 lights.